Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
CubeMonk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Track your goods with our advanced GPS system. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by heirs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at heirs.com.
Insured Nomads provides protection and peace of mind, with health insurance, travel insurance, group, or tailored insurance for the globally mobile. Visit us at insurednomads.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
This is Ed Cohen in San Diego, California, and this again is Global TV Talk Show, broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net. Check it out. You'll find some good stuff there. Our special guest today is in the Washington, D.C. metro region, Mika Cross, and she is full of strategy when it comes to workplace. She's got gads and deep experience about flex work. And in fact, from my view, here in San Diego, and she's over there in Washington area, she was one of the originators of flex work and remote. Let's welcome Mika Cross. Hi.
Hi, Ed. Thank you so much for having me. So great to see you again.
So when did you go to FlexJobs.com? That was a long time ago, and that you had a fight to get an audience then.
Yeah, before I joined FlexJobs as an employer, I had been working in the federal government space and even in uniform for the United States Army, for 2 decades. And I got to tell you, especially after 9/11, when the intelligence community was really focused on supporting a workforce who was being heavily deployed, both civilian and contractor and uniform service members, and then thinking and considering how they were going to structure workforce policy to attract the best talent, retain the best talent, and then reintegrate that talent back to the workforce after a deployment, which civilians before that time really were not asked to do en masse the way that they were to scale after 9/11. We were really focused on sort of a holistic approach to strategic work flexibility in a lot of different ways. And from there, in 2010, I joined the Department of Agriculture. And that was shortly after the Telework Enhancement Act of 2010 was passed for the federal government workforce. And that legislation really required federal agencies to think about leveraging telework, which now we're calling hybrid work. It always goes through iterations, right? There was telecommuting and flexi-place and telework and work from home, and now we're calling it hybrid. It's the buzzword.
So to what extent and back then was trust and performance management, but mostly it was trust though, wasn't it?
It was, and I think it still is, quite frankly, although I think we were forced over the last year to really test that out and really have to extend trust first in a really important way. And over the past year, not only were we focused on teleworking successfully, but you had all sorts of requirements for people to leverage different kinds of workplace flexibility in addition to telework. So you had people on different work schedules in the federal government space shifting away from core hours, which was incredibly important before the pandemic, to have these like structured hours where everybody would be available at the same time. That sort of went out the window when people were having to care for infants and babies and school-age children and parents and other family members that have medical conditions or got sick, God forbid. And so this approach to a pilot test really over the last year to structure performance-based, trust-based, flexible work for operational resiliency really took place.
So now in the federal government, um, which is of course massive,
Yeah.
what percentage of the staff is not in the office?
It really depends on the agency and the mission, right? So in the DC area, we have a large population of headquarters staff, which typically are your knowledge workers, typically. But we also have a large component of workers who have a top secret security clearance or a different level of security clearance that requires on-site work and access to specialized systems. We have people that work for the TSA who need to be on site in order to do their jobs. And so this holistic look of how they were going to be able to implement that really did take place, as I was mentioning. Right now, we're seeing sort of on par to the private industry where there's between 40 and 65% working remotely, or maybe relying heavily on remote and hybrid work more so than in an actual office. The new administration under President Biden is really focused on health and safety and well-being for the federal workforce. So the philosophy is if you don't have to be in the office and you can do your work from a remote location, you typically should be, unless we can guarantee that the workspace and the physical space is compliant with safety and health regulations that are out there. And that changes by the minute right now. We're still in the midst of this global epidemic.
Right, right. Well, Joanne and I have had both our shots, and everything's good.
Congratulations. I have not yet, but
Oh, you got to find a way to get it.
yeah. Well, I was hoping the VA might, I know they're working hard to get veterans, and especially veterans with certain disabilities. And one of mine is respiratory. So we'll see. I have high hopes for the VA.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, let's talk about to the extent you can or want to, the IC community and the recent hacks and that kind of security. I mean, that's a little off topic here, but it's in the news, and
Well, it's important. Yeah. We're talking about safeguarding our country's secrets and information. And, cybersecurity threats are ranked at the highest of reasons why supervisors and managers and leaders in the federal space still have hesitation around allowing long-term flexible remote work. They want people back in the offices because they feel they can safeguard and control those systems a little bit better. But quite frankly, the technology is there. We need to be making the investments. And it's interesting, the latest COVID response funding includes a large amount for IT modernization for these purposes, specifically in the federal space.
Good to know.
To make certain that our systems are safeguarded, that our digital workspaces are protected, and that our employees also enjoy a seamless employee experience when they're accessing their work. So I have high hopes for that this year. We've been talking about IT modernization so much, and security and cybersecurity clearly is at the top of the priorities right now.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so what about performance management on flex time, flex work, or hybrid?
Yeah.
How do you, as a manager, I don't even know how to say it. How do you manage performance, or how do you engage? Well, I guess you just be human, right?
I think first you be human, Ed. Yes. We've had some experience really humanizing how we're working. We've had to by virtue of necessity. People's lives are at work. Look at where I'm talking to you right now, because I'm sharing my office with my son, who is now off of school, remote school, and he wants to play his video games. So I traipsed upstairs to my kitchen counter. And here I am. We don't have the luxury of having 2 different office spaces and 4 different bedrooms. So you have to make do with what you have to make do. I think when you're talking about performance management, it's setting the expectations and be really clear around when and how you're going to be responsive and available. And that goes for your coworkers, it goes for your supervisor, it goes for your direct reports. Managing those sets of office protocols and team norms for how we're going to behave and work together to get work done is incredibly important. And then the interfacing, right? The human element, it's checking in and also doing so in a way that sort of gives employees some options. A lot of managers in the beginning were really relying heavily on video conferencing. And I think for some meetings it's important, but maybe not for all. If you're doing a check-in and someone might have 20 minutes of non-meeting time throughout their day, maybe giving them an option to take a phone call and go and walk and talk to you and asking those different kinds of questions. How are you feeling about your work? Do you have what you need to get the job done? Is there anything I can do? How is your work schedule going? Are you taking leave, paying attention to whether or not your remote staff who tend to often not take time off during this environment because work is so readily available all the time and everywhere, paying attention to your direct reports in the sense that how is their well-being going as well?
Yeah. So what about the personal invasion? That's a negative wording, but it's a personal involvement more than ever.
Goodness gracious, I've seen more pets and babies and grandmas on the screen. I think we're learning how to multitask a little bit better. I think we're feeling like we don't have to ask permission and feel sorry about the fact that our lives spill into work and work spills into our life. At the same time, I think helping employees in the workforce and leadership at all levels understand the right kinds of resources and competencies to be able to work effectively remotely. I mean, there's people that clearly don't have the space. They don't have the luxury of having their own office. So could you potentially create a space that's free from your work? I've seen people set up shower curtains in the back, just to safeguard so they're not seeing the rest of their living room or whatever it might be. They're having to put signs on their doors so Amazon doesn't knock and interrupt and make the dog bark when they're on a video call. So I think people are becoming more resilient and resourceful and creative, but the distractions are there. Life is distracting. And when you think about it, even in the office, consider the parents who had to leave early to go pick up a sick child, or maybe you had to take time off because you had a medical appointment for yourself or a loved one. I mean, these things are distracting. Life is distracting. So how are you going to structure work around your life, around the unknown, and still be results oriented? That, friend, is the question.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Okay, so we got about 5 minutes left here or so. And what do you think is going to be the protocol for getting people back in the office? You know, clean and safe for sure. But the population shift, 1/3 one day, the next third the next day, you know,
Yeah, you know,
how's that
I
going to be
think
done?
I think it's going to take a really strategic approach of looking holistically at your workforce. Position, person, preference, who's their customers, when do they need to be on site, when do they want to be on site, and what are the business reasons for doing so? And then taking a look at the office facility infrastructure, can that support, the strategy that you're putting forward? It may take shift work. It may take people signing up for, compressed work schedules or alternate work schedules at different hours, staggering the use of public transportation, parking, proximity, all of those things. I think it first starts with a conversation, though, around preference. You really need to take an assessment of what your workforce wants and why. And you can focus on the how, too. So, for instance, many managers assume that their whole workforce would want to work remotely if offered. That is actually not the case. Research shows time and time again that the majority of workers want the option to choose how, when, and where they work. They know the value of coming into an office and being able to collaborate or work on site when they need less distractions. Asking them first and foremost, they knew their jobs better, right? And let's assume that they want to do the best work. I know federal workers, one of the highest ranking marks on the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey is their dedication to the mission, their satisfaction with the mission, and their loyalty to that mission. Your workers want to do a good job. They want to keep their jobs. They want to keep you happy. Let them be part of that conversation and how this strategy is built.
You hit the nail on the head here, I think, because the managers, train the managers is what's important now I know in private companies, but to hear it from the federal perspective and the mission, using the language of the military, but
Yeah.
but it's correct because that's what it is. The idea is to be an employer of choice in this nutty environment.
Well, and if
Means
you consider,
being smarter.
I agree. And if you consider the obligation also of all of us to try to rebuild this country and our economy together, which includes jobs and access to employment, it's going to take a different approach. When you're talking about rural communities that might not have access to the infrastructure to get to where the jobs are, being able to bring remote and flexible jobs to different locations, especially across rural America, will help strengthen our economy. Bringing those jobs to women and working parents who have been hit the hardest when you're talking about no access to childcare, no availability of school for age 5 through 18, even through college, right? And the impact to their ability to continue working. Offering these kinds of flexibilities is going to really make or break both the company, but also our ability to restore our economy here in this nation.
Yeah, and couple that with more secure bandwidth and high speed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as this rolls out more and more, people will have better practice. They'll be able to achieve those results that organizations and employers are looking to achieve, whether it's a bottom line, hard cash dollars, or whether it's mission and service oriented. This environment forces you to focus on output, quality, quantity, accessibility, responsiveness, customer service, and all of those great things. So you're going to have to start hiring leaders who can manage people in that environment and bring a little bit of empathy and caring and humanization to work.
We've been talking with Mika Cross. And so, Mika, what's your contact details, if you could tell our audience?
Well, first and foremost, I'm very accessible on LinkedIn. I'm a social media super user, I'd like to think. You can find me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is actually Mika Cross, Work-Life Champion of the Universe. Yes, it is. I won an award actually from an employee a long time ago in the intelligence community who gave me this little plaque that said Work-Life Champion of the Universe because I helped her secure a part-time job in one of those 3-letter IA agencies she would have otherwise left. So I always have that on my desk to remind me where I came from. And then I'm also on Twitter at Mika Cross, Mika_Cross. And then you can find me on Instagram, which I'm there less because I also have 2 crazy kids and a fiance, and he has 3 kids, and we have animals and jobs and you name it. So I am just like you. Bear with me if I take a little while to respond, but Ed knows I will. Ed knows I will.
Okay, thank you, Mika. It's great to talk with you. Let's
Always
do it
a pleasure.
again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, ciao.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.